Yeah, so like normal, do you want me to ask you, do we have any new patrons?
Yes, we have Gavin, Deezy, Cramdar, Mr. Braindead, and Nova. And Cappy, I have to say that last live stream that we did on Patreon was thoroughly enjoyable. In fact, I think we ran over. We did like 2.5 hours.
Yeah. We could have kept going all night with that.
It was a lot of fun, and we didn't even hit. So I don't know why. I want to keep that one a little bit close to. So the title of that one was what? Incels and Black Pill Dialectics.
Yeah.
I want to keep that one a little bit close to the vest. You know what I mean? Because some of these specimens are still in the wild, and it's an ongoing monitor. It's an ongoing monitoring that we're doing here. So I want to keep that a little, because they may be listening right now. The little weasels may be listening. They're out there.
I'm concerned for the safety of others.
We don't want to instigate any school shootings or anything. So but if you guys want to see what's going on there, our sneaky little live, our sneaky little live streams that we do here, you got to join the Patreon. Cappy, tell all these people about all the amenities that they'll get if they become a patron at patreon.com/onlineleftists.
Yeah, you'll get, well, now we have, 6 VODs for you to watch, and then you can join us every Tuesday and Thursday night for exclusive lives that run between an hour to 2 hours, apparently 2.5 hours. So
it's an exponentially increasing cornucopia of content.
It's great, and honestly, those lives are like comedic relief.
Yeah, it's almost like
they're funny.
These VODs and the podcasts, they're like rabbits. You avert your eyes for a moment, and you pop back up. There's like 3 or 4 more live streams for you. Yeah, it's good stuff. Okay, so today, the focus of our attention today, with my incredible wit, untrained, unseasoned as it were, just raw intellectual power, and Cappy's vast and almost professorial understanding of dialectical materialism and all its shapes and flavors, the subject of our discernment that we are going to diagnose, critique, and react to today is a little character that I like to call Green Ancen. You know why? Because that's their username.
Yep.
That's because it's green.ancen on TikTok. Now, Cappy, right off the bat, how would you categorize this person, just sight unseen for the audience?
Infantile anarchist.
I'm not even sure. Are they an anarchist?
Yeah, they talk about anarchism by name. And in the one TikTok, which I believe we're going to be going over during this podcast, they specifically bring up Malatesta. They are, I believe, telling Ash to read or maybe Madeline Pendleton to read Malatesta or something like that.
Yeah, every time I heard Malatesta, I would assumed it was a joke because it seems like they're saying a bad thing in Italian or Spanish.
Yeah, Malatesta is actually like a nice guy. I've read Malatesta. I just think that he was too optimistic.
It seems like bad. Isn't it bad in Spanish is mal, and then testa is like testes. So he's like Mr. Bad Balls or something.
I forget. Someone in the Discord who speaks Spanish brought that up, though. I think it might have been Kittens.
Okay, yeah. I think that she is a Spanglish enthusiast like I am, coming from Southern California. Yeah. It's like my ears perked up because it's kind of like when you're on the construction job site and you hear some words, you're like, I'm pretty sure they just called me a bald, drunk white boy. But you're not sure, you know what I mean? You're like, some of those utterances sounded kind of familiar. I think I am the subject of scrutiny right now. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's like my ears perked up when I hear Malatesta, just like that. I was like, Okay, so I have some notes here. Green Ancen, they are an anarchist Centauri. Centauri, okay. Whatever that is. We were trying to, up to minutes up to the recording, hitting record on this podcast today, Cappy, I was trying to track down this mythical Centauri manifesto that apparently exists. There is a revolution. There are anti-Centauri rebels in the field trying to field me communication, but I did not reach out to them soon enough to get the full dossier on this person. So we're this may be a person with some updates. Yeah. It's a as developing dossier that we're working on here.
Yeah.
So they are an anarchist Centauri that is anti-authoritarian, anti-Marx, anti-Marxist-Leninist, anti-DPRK, anti-proletariat, which we'll get into, and apparently they see any kind of state as inherently oppressive. Now, would you say that seeing the state as inherently oppressive, that's like every anarchist, huh?
Yeah, and that is technically correct. The state is objectively a tool of class repression, but Marxists ask themselves, right, who is being subjugated to that authority and who is wielding that authority, right? And in the case of a worker state, it's the working class wielding that authority over the bourgeoisie, which is a good thing.
Yeah, and the way that these anarchists frame it is like as if that it's the rebels trying to take over the Death Star and then pilot the Death Star instead of blowing it up.
Yeah, no, they it seems like this person fails to understand that we're not just seizing the capitalist state, that we're destroying it and building a completely new state.
Well, keeping the productive forces intact. All we want to change is the beneficiaries of those productive forces. Isn't that right?
Yeah. But we also want to build a very strong and, people-oriented state, right? It's not, I don't know, the way anarchists act is as if we're just going to seize, like, say, the state in the U.S., the capitalist state, and then just use that state, right? But Marx himself, he was like, no, you can't just do that. We're seizing state power, right? So it's building a whole new state to serve the people.
Okay, and then going on with this, it says, older account started in 2021. Older posts are nebulous, compatible left slideshows and view baits. Did you see any of those that I had linked there about the wetlands and the climate and capitalism and stuff like that?
Yeah, I checked them out.
Would you categorize them as sort of like left lib compatible stuff, not super radical? It seems like pre-anarchist necessarily.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that.
Yeah, and then it looks like they moved from compatible leftist posting, sort of view maxing, sort of nebulous progressive stuff linking capitalism and emissions of private jets and things of that nature. And it looks like as they moved from that compatible leftist position to whatever they are now, they've somehow become more anti-com. Cappy, is that normal for someone to be sort of ambiguous about whether they're anti-communist or not and then get more anti-ML, anti-com as they go left?
It can be if you don't fully deconstruct your liberal worldview and you continue to let it inform your opinions on things. Then yeah, like if you come across anarchism and you decide to not at all engage with Marxist theory or practice in any sort of good faith manner, then yes, you're going to end up regurgitating things that you'd hear from the CIA, and you're not going to become any more radical.
Okay, I do have some screen grabs here, and let's go ahead and forward this one over to you if you've not seen these. I do see Green Ancen in my FYP, so I am familiar with the sort of rage bait things that she does here. So the first one here is a screen grab of her live that says Marxist-Leninists are evil, and then another one here that says Marxist-Leninists are villains. It's this type of fare. My secret informant also let me know that they had explicitly said that Green Ancen had read Mein Kampf quotes on air and asked people to guess if it was Hitler or Marx who said it. So she's throwing in a little double genocide theory as a treat.
Yeah, that's goofy anyway. How could there is an obvious difference between Mein Kampf and the fucking Communist Manifesto. I mean, that's insane.
But I don't know. I can't imagine what quotes that she's picking from the Communist Manifesto that would be confusable with Mein Kampf.
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, it's insane to me.
Okay, so let's just go ahead and get into some of these. So here is one of their most egregious posts.
Statists are nationalists, by the way, and nationalists face the wall. Same page, same page.
Okay, so we have that, and then if you see down here at the bottom, mask off moment, like no bra, hashtag anarchism, and then she tagged Comrade Ash, which some of our listeners might be familiar with, who is a cadre member over at the Collective.
Yeah. So you know what I heard?
The implication being that Ash is a nationalist?
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Ridiculous. What did you hear?
It's ridiculous. When I heard, nationalists get the wall, immediately my brain goes to, this person hates Palestinians. This person does, that's what you're saying, right? Palestine right now is fighting for a state and a right to self-determination. So what, should they get the wall?
Yeah, it's like they're an anti-Yonv activist. Shout out to Yonv in the Discord.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, right? Because that's the same type of thing. it doesn't make sense. It's so goofy.
So they're doing a chain of logic there that statists are nationalists and Marxists are statists are fighting for a capital or seizing the means of production. So they are statist nationalists, and then some of those Marxists are white. So therefore, the white MLs are white nationalists. Ergo, they get the wall.
Yeah.
That is. Now, I think that she, after the fact, is framing this as a joke. Ash made a specific response to that. Let's listen to this right here.
Green, what are you doing? Why are you tagging me in this? I'm not a statist or a nationalist. I'm a Marxist-Leninist. I'm not a fucking nationalist. Are you implying that you think I should face a wall, Green? Is that what we're doing now? Weird.
Definitely weird. And then Ash also pointed out in this original clip right here, there's 4 emojis. So it's like a dilapidated house, a white person walking towards it, and then fire and timber, indicating, is this inferring that their house should get burnt down?
Yeah, I don't know. That's weird because those emojis have nothing to do with the content of the TikTok.
Yeah, is this incitement of violence against just a ML girl boss? Just a bossy pants ML, just an ML queen?
It's weird. And also, it annoys me because Green here has no nuance. Not all Marxist-Leninists are nationalists. It makes sense if you're a victim of imperialism in the global south and you're having a national liberation movement. But generally speaking, any Marxist-Leninist worth their salt in the imperial core is not a nationalist.
Then they have this follow-up here.
I stand by what I said in that video, but I just want to make a quick clarification that I obviously lack the ability to accurately critique any project in the global south, much less any non-white project. You know what I mean? I just don't have that ability. And secondly, white nations are consistently the foundation for systemic racism across the globe, right? Not to mention colonization, imperialism, right? So white nationalism, the person who I was responding to, obviously isn't liberatory nor revolutionary in any sense. Just want to make those clarifications. We'll make more in the longer video, okay, later.
So doubling down on the fact that Ash is indeed a white nationalist. So they understand global south. They understand that they're coming from someone in the imperial core and they don't want to say anything, but they're saying, no, my criticism was sound because this ML is in fact a white nationalist, which they objectively are not. I believe Ash is a Latina. Number one. I think that she's Chicana. But
yeah,
so
I mean
it's a little peculiar, this whole framing.
I think that was a post hoc rationalization because people were probably commenting under there and being like, what? What about victims of imperialism? What about the global south, right? So then they go, oh, fuck, I don't want people to think, so then they have to go, oh, no, I'm talking specifically about, quote unquote white Marxist movements, whatever.
Yeah, and then she didn't even specifically call out Marxism-Leninism. She used a faulty logic tree to paint MLs as white supremacists and then used arguments against white supremacist nationalist projects. You know what I mean? It's okay, we agree with that. No, yes, white supremacists, white nationalists do uphold imperialism and all that. Yes, no, we agree with that. But the problem is you're calling MLs white nationalists. Yeah, which is peculiar. Yeah, it's okay. So then we have this follow-up video. So this was about a month-long back and forth. This person apparently also refuses to engage with Ash. Ash has reached out several times for a debate, and this person refuses to engage.
They're scared.
What's up? I'm Comrade Ash, and I'm Cadre's Minister of Information.
This right here is why you should be skeptical of organizations you find out about online. A major issue that leftists in general deal with, me at the forefront, me number one issue haver right now for this specific issue is that we have a lot of ideas. We got a lot of ideas running around in our fucking heads, and we're we are so eager to like apply them to the world around us because we know that they're right, you know? However, a lot of us just lack the ability to do anything meaningful in the real world, right? Like the majority of us don't hold a lot of power, obviously, to actually influence any of these thoughts that we have onto the people around us. So we tend to build organizations to try to get there, to try to garner this power, but then all we kind of do is just build these superstructures around nothing, you know? It's a whole bunch of infrastructure with no real material basis, where we just kind of assign titles, Minister of Education, when we don't have any control over education to begin with. Like, this is kind of why we're called LARPers so often, is because we call ourselves ministers of education when in reality we're not even the basics, we're not even educators yet, you know what I mean? Like you can call it, like, Ash is an okay example of this, actually. Like, she does, at the very least, attempt to educate on her live streams, but there's nothing beyond that, you know what I mean? She isn't in control of any subset of instructors in which are putting forward a particular message, you know what I mean? Like, what's she the minister of, you know? I'm saying you know a lot because this is just so weird, you know what I mean? It's so weird. A common, like, criticism of this, though, is like, but Green, you don't know what they're doing in real life, they're just probably not sharing it online. Which, like, fair, you know what I mean? But there's no evidence to support that they're doing anything or that cadre is anything material, you know? Like, no website, they have 5 TikToks total posted on their page. You know what, like, where is any of the actual influence insofar that you would require a minister of anything? That's the thing, though, is they don't require ministers. They don't require controllers of any of these different subsects, like ideology, like education, like propaganda, like control over resources, agriculture, etc., because they don't have any of these things to begin with.
This is fucking insufferable. It's insufferable. I can't listen anymore.
Yeah,
and then
annoying.
it also says in the caption, TLDR, touch grass. Also, I was way too nice with Ash here. She's for real a white nationalist, so... And then it says anarchism, liberation, trans, and communism as hashtags. Cappy, what do you think about this? What do you think about them? Her critique here is you're not actually... So does Ancen require a degree in education for someone to be an education czar? Because I got to tell you, I don't think Betsy DeVos had a degree in education. Yeah. I think that you can get very high up, so I don't think it's that. And... as far as I don't know what sort of material, real world manifestation a subgroup of people who are organizing in real life, which I know that these people are.
Yes,
I already know that these people are organizing in real life.
That's the thing. Green Ancen is making a bunch of assumptions. We know that they are organizing in real life. They are doing something. What the fuck is Green Ancen doing too, by the way? Probably nothing. So, one, they are organizing in real life. Two, if cadre isn't, if they're a media collective or whatever they may be, who cares? They are educating people. So I don't think that this is a good critique at all. You know what I mean? I do believe that almost all of those members are actually organized, in various orgs or parties outside of the internet.
Yeah, I have seen similar evidence.
Yes.
Now, can you speak to what anarchist organization in the real world looks like?
Yeah, I can. As someone who was an anarchist for 6 years.
Yeah. So Ancen, is she upset that there's not photos of these people in a park, unwashed, saying things?
Well, so when I was during the Occupy Wall Street movement, when I was organizing with anarchists, it did start out with a small group of friends, and we would have general assemblies in the park and pass motions that didn't really matter, and eventually we lived in a commune. And it's not that we didn't do anything to reach out to people and to try and make connections with working people, but we didn't really do anything super important. It's not that we didn't help anyone, but we didn't get anything done. It left me very disillusioned and living in the woods at one point, right? So that's what turned me to Marxism in the first place. There really was no structure or anything like that. And honestly, a lot of people were starting to get sick of us when we were occupying certain areas. I don't know. It's weird. again, I don't think Ancen is organizing or doing anything.
Yeah, so basically she's just talking about the trope of like sort of, which I can see is kind of fair, like calling yourself the commissar of fucking understander. I am the commissar of understanderings. You know what I mean? I'm the knower. I am the czar of knowing stuff and ba and sort of. But I think that's sort of a naming convention that is very common in communist circles, right? It's almost like cute. It's an allusion to it or something.
Well, here's what I think is that, right, a cadre really can't function necessarily outside of a party structure, but that doesn't mean you can't start a media collective on the internet to try and educate people.
Right. I agree. Okay, on to the next one. So let's go. So, and that one in particular I put to show that, again, she affirmed in the caption of that one, she affirmed again that Ash is a white nationalist. It was like apropos of nothing, in a non-germane fashion, completely unfounded, which is like slanderous, right? I think that might actually be an actionable legal claim. Like, you can't call me a white supremacist. Like, what are you doing? Like, I'm absolutely like if from an ideology standpoint and everything else, everything I organize to do is counter to those people, and I'm those people's number one enemy. No, and you as an anarchist actually uphold, like you are aiming to create a power vacuum by which those groups would come into immediate ascendancy. Yeah. So you're actually an ally to the white nationalists, irrespective of, so it's like this whole thing stinks. It's suspect.
It's trying, like, it's almost like Fed jacketing, but with white nationalism. Like, Ash is like diametrically opposed to white nationalists.
Yeah, and a Chicana, by the way, which is, I guess, technically, like, there's like Nick Fuentes's and other stuff out there. So I guess, but literally all of her, she's always platforming people of different ethnic minorities. She's doing work, and she can't even do the typical criticisms that anarchoids do against MLs because Ash is very active in mutual aid stuff. She's always doing mutual aid posts for comrades of different ethnic minorities, and things like that, which is very evident if you just go on Ash's TikTok. What is Ash's TikTok? I don't even know.
Is it just Ash or Comrade Ash?
It's Comrade Ash, maybe. Which you can see if you go to Comrade_Ash's TikTok. Shout out to Comrade Ash. Which you can see yourself, just like look through their stories. They're always trying to help someone out. Yeah. Even the normal anarchist talking points against MLs don't even work on Ash. It's sort of like the worst case scenario. If you were going to pick an ML to slander, like, Ash is a very bad choice. To try to slander as a white nationalist. Yeah. So let's go into this next one. So this is again, keen-eared listeners may remember, this is a post. This may be the first TikTok that we listened to on this podcast, which was one by a dude named Best Comrade, who subsequently deleted all his accounts. After recording and previous to release, he deleted his entire online presence. However, this is a re-upload of the edit that features Cappy in it, that is sort of like mocking online leftists, ironically, as a leftoid himself. Mocking Hassan, Madeline Pendleton, and I think Mochaccino and Comrade Cappy himself here in person. Green Ancen was very taken by this.
I have owned and operated a business for 13 years. I tell them it's easier to find.
And they say anarchists or CA capitalist liberal shells. This is really funny, dude. Oh my god. MLs are capitalists. And I'm gonna die on this hill. I'm sorry. I can't after watching that. Like, oh my god. Anyways, it was all a ploy. Me and Madeline Pendleton, best friends. They actually pay my bills. So any internet beef, totally manufactured, just like how they manufacture shit in China with their 16-year-old workers.
Okay. Another unfounded claim of 16-year-old. Like, what? I don't know what that is. Is she inferring that, like, labor laws that which may allow 16-year-olds can work in America, as I understand it. Isn't that right, Cappy?
I had a job at 16.
Yeah. So are they saying? I don't even know what this claim is.
They're trying to claim child labor, which is illegal according to the labor laws in China.
Right. And and we have American Republicans here trying to wither those child protection laws away domestically. Meanwhile, there is more enforcement against that in China than there is here.
Yeah.
Number one. And number two, the claim of so she often does this. So I'll get into this later. So we have something queued up later, but she often says like, hey, you're saying CIA talking points. She exhibits binary thinking and says that, oh, you think I'm a CIA paid shill and I'm an agent in COINTEL. It's like, I didn't say it. I'm saying that what you're doing now is State Department talking points. You're saying the things that the State Department says. Oh, you think I'm a Fed? It's like, I didn't say. I would say that if I thought you were a Fed. I don't think you're smart enough to be a Fed.
No, yeah. We're
number one.
No one's ever saying that they're actual agents of the state. What we're saying is that their talking points are the same as the State Department. You know what I mean? So they're shilling, but they're not necessarily agents.
Yeah, and they don't seem to understand that, because I think that number one, they're very young, and number two, they're sort of like room temperature IQ, and number three, they're bad faith.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So they're sort of doing, what is that, reducto ad absurdum or whatever. They're doing a reductive fallacy.
Yes.
To say, oh, this guy thinks I'm literally the director of the CIA. No, dog. I'm not saying that. What about the MLs being capitalists? I would say smart MLs are post-capitalist and understand that ride capitalism until the wheels fall off so as to maximize our productive forces.
Yeah. So what bothers me about that is that certain communists may very well be petite bourgeoisie, in which case, yes, they are. I guess Madeline Pendleton would technically meet that criteria, although her business is it's a cooperative, so it's more of a socialist structure. It's far more fair than the job I work for. But my issue is that to say Marxist-Leninists are capitalists, like, what makes you a capitalist is your relationship to the means of production, right? And if you do not own a means of production, in which you can exploit another person with, if you do not own capital, then you are objectively not a capitalist.
Right. Well, they reject the bourgeoisie prole distinction, as we'll see right here. So maybe that all went over their head and rolled off their back like water off a duck's back, because they reject the bourgeoisie prole distinction, and we'll see why right here.
Absolutely, I can. Disability doesn't really exist, at least not in any objective sense. Disability is just a tool of the state meant to keep individuals down from society. Societies naturally are inclusive and operate in ways that everybody can participate in, at least in the majority of its functionality. Disability, or the concept of it today, is a way to separate individuals from the rest of society based on the amount of labor power that they can output. If your system of liberation doesn't include this, then you're protecting the systems of oppression that the state necessarily has. The only way to protect any marginalized individual or community is to empower them to control their society. This is a major reason why we reject the proletariat bourgeois distinction, because neither of those two classes includes disabled individuals, at least not under Marx's conception of what those words meant. The same principle applies to children, the same principle applies to the elderly, etc., etc. This is also why we're pro-gun, right? Because the only way to guarantee that marginalized people's rights are protected is to give them the power to protect them. They're the only people who are the most maximally interested in protecting their own fundamental human rights.
So what society are they talking about?
I don't even know. And first of all, it's not even true. What they're saying is not. Are they saying that no disabled people sell their labor power? Because that's untrue. There are plenty of disabled people who do work, which would make them part of the proletariat if they're selling their labor power. And
I think that they mean de jure classified. So they're saying only disability is recognized by the federal government, maybe. So again, they're using the federal term. They're using the federal categorization of some people under the American Medical Act and the American Disabilities Act, I guess, as who is or is not disabled. Because yes, there are very many people who are otherwise abled who are functional members of the working class and therefore proletariat.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with a disabled person who worked. It was a job that was made, like it was specifically, it worked for them, right? They couldn't work a normal job, but they did work at this, specific job that was made so that people like them could have work. It would be weird not to consider them part of the working class, considering that they were literally selling their labor power.
So they're specifically talking about people who cannot participate,
who cannot work,
and who cannot work. Yes.
Yeah.
And that they're saying that is there a germ of something that can be nodded to in there? That, because I do see, Cappy, if we're being straight up, and we don't want to lie to our listeners here, we want to embolden our listeners to, have nuanced conversations about stuff. There is a lot of conversations I've seen online about distinctions about the revolutionary potential of the lumpen.
Yes.
Right? The non-workers. And I think that some of the dogmatoid Marxoids, they some of the labor aristocrat glazers, they sort of downplay, right, the lumpen potential.
Yes.
And I think that the material conditions in America right now with the lumpen are very much different than Karl Marx's time, and therefore there may not be such an exhaustive look at the revolutionary potential back then.
Absolutely. I mean, look, I get the argument that they're putting forward, because even though a lot of Marxists will say, look, if you don't own capital, right, if you don't own a means of production, then you're working class. But looking at it purely, looking at it economically, if we're looking at your relationship to the means of production, if you do not sell your labor power, right, for a wage, if you're disabled and you're not able-bodied, then yes, technically speaking, you would not be a member of the proletariat. But that doesn't mean that, A, you're not oppressed, which obviously I think Ancen or Green, whatever their name is, understands they are oppressed.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that the proletariat is going to leave you behind, because we believe that everybody has a right to food, clothing, housing, and healthcare, and we don't view the value of a human being by whether or not they can produce. There's more to the value of a human being than whether or not they can produce, right? We don't believe in leaving anyone behind.
How did projects like the USSR and DPRK deal with people who were otherwise able and not able to contribute to the productive output of a society?
Yes, so I think that there are a couple things. One, they try and find work in jobs that people like that are able to do. And two, if you're not able-bodied and you can't work, then they take care of you. It's that simple.
Right. Okay. Which is probably more of a guarantee than you would get from a quote unquote anarchist society. I really hate it because, I don't want to be pedantic, but what society are they talking about? Wouldn't that in a sort of society, in as much as it could be described, would have to be enforced by some sort of state system, which they inherently object to, right?
Yeah. Anarchists are ableist. Who's going to build the wheelchair ramps?
And they not only that, they're against the sort of federalized medical codes that would, make insulin safe or manufacture things at low or no cost for its citizenry.
Yeah, well, don't you know we're going to make insulin in the bathtub?
These are unforeseen complications that anarchists did not anticipate for and refuse to engage with. Is that what this is?
I mean, I guess. I'm sure that there is some theory on it that I've not read, but yeah.
I mean, I've never gotten a clear answer, but okay, so we have that. To this point here, have you heard of this term, the Gwythgen?
No, I've never heard that.
Okay, well, they go into some of this. So this is how I think some of what they think is the answer versus the proletariat. So they reject proletariat bourgeoisie distinctions, and also they reject the proletariat in entirety, especially as they see it defined by Marx. Let's listen to this. They're responding to a thing here that says, it is an ancient Welsh term referring to manufacturing. They just wanted to take a special word for their followers instead of just saying prol like a normal person. Okay, and then this is Green Ancen's response to this.
Wrong, and wrong. And wrong. That's 5 wrongs-ish in this one comment. Crazy word. I'm going to address all of them because I'm just that devoted to the Gwythgen, okay? Devoted to all you Pookie Bears. So, first off, most importantly, Gwythgen and proletariat, or prol for short, are not equivalent, not even a little bit. So because we're in leftist spaces, I'm going to assume we're working off of Marx's definition of proletariat, which is a little bit different than its like original conception, but that's okay. Marx defined proletariat as the class of modern wage laborers who, having no means of production of their own, are reduced to selling their labor power in order to live. In short, it just means in order to be proletariat, you A, do not own the means of production, and B, have to sell your wage labor in order to live. That's what it means to be proletariat, at least according to Karl Marx. Now, Gweithkin. Gweithkin refers to anybody who contributes to society, whether it is economically or socially, or at least that's the modern conception of that word. So in order to be a Gweithkin, it doesn't matter if you have the ability or capacity to work. It doesn't matter if you sell your wage labor in order to live. It doesn't matter if you're part of the modern day class of wage laborers. It doesn't. Our definition includes people with physical and mental disabilities insofar that they can't work. It includes children. It includes the elderly. Proletariat does not, or at least that's not like the classical definition of proletariat. Second of all, Gweithkin is like two words kind of pushed together. The original Welsh word is gweith, which means to work or of working, right? That's kind of the like direct translation. And gyn, which means former, right? Gyn, former. So we're saying we are post-work. We're trying to get past this idea of like, we are laborers. Yeah, I know. We're trying to bring in humanity into the definition of the class structure in which we're a part of. Third of all, it's not ancient. Right? Like even a little bit. Like the original Celtic word obviously goes way, way back. But like the actual word gweith only goes back to about the 15th century. So that's like 6 centuries ago. It's not ancient, right? But semantics, right? Semantics. It's not about our followers, right? Like even a little bit. Almost all people are Gweithkin. The other two classes are diffu and Siphothweird, but we can go into that another time. So, yeah, maybe just don't like assume. I think that doesn't like reflect well on you as a person, right? And you know what they say about assuming makes an ass out of
you and Uma Thurman. Okay, so did she say motherfucking Sephiroth?
Something like that, yeah.
Bro, is this Lord of the Rings?
This is so goofy, too. I mean, historically speaking, the revolutions, proletarian revolutions that have occurred, of course, are led by the proletariat, but the masses, the general masses take part in that, whether they are elderly or kids or unemployed, peasants, whatever it may be. So we're not excluding anyone from the revolution.
Right. So yeah, this is another false dichotomy that is sort of like what they see as a definitional gotcha, because while there was a strict definition for who was the proletariat, it does not indicate that everybody else would be left by the wayside. You know, who does suggest that is most anarchists.
Yeah, right?
They're like, okay, because I know some of these leftoid anarchists want to think that they are the only anarchists, but every ANCAP is an anarchist. And I got to say, people say, oh, they're not really anarchists. I'm like, I can't tell the difference. What do you mean? They want the same goal. They're trying to destroy the state because they want a private military force and they want company towns. And unfortunately, anarchists have to contend with the fact that anarcho-capitalists exist.
Yes,
there are those people. And they are fundamentally much more, they're fundamentally much more capable of enacting what they want than you are. So unfortunately, you have to contend with those anarchoids, and guess what? The disabled are going to be the first to go. If they have their way, disabled people are going to go into camps.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now we have this post dovetailing right into that, where I have a note here. It says, Marx is reactionary because he didn't deconstruct race plus ableism. Let's give this a listen, and I'm sure Cap, you'll have some stuff to say about this. Oh, we don't even have to listen to this one. Okay, in this quote, so in this post, they say, Marx was an old white man in the late 1800s who did nothing to deconstruct racism plus ableism. The basis of his theory cannot be liberatory. In fact, his very name is reactionary. And then in the caption, it says, I don't even like the word reactionary. I guess you wouldn't. But you got to know your audience. Am I right? Cappy, what do you think about this?
Well, I think, it's interesting because there have been a lot of black Marxists, for instance, and black socialists and communists such as Kwame Ture, who pushes back against this idea that Marxism is Eurocentric and stuff like that. But I'd like to share a quote from Marx himself. Marx once said, I quote, "Labor in the white skin can never free itself as long as labor in the black skin is branded." Based. So obviously, it's to act like racism wasn't a thought in Marx's mind at all just fucking read Marx. And he mentions it more than that. He has a whole book on the Civil War in America and stuff like that. He was very happy that that slavery was ended in the U.S. Green turns Marx into a fucking monster.
Not only that, I think that what people don't get is, I would say even in Karl Marx's time, the disabled were the mentally disabled, but I feel like there was more of a social structure to take care of the disabled during his time than there is now in late stage monopoly capitalism.
There may have been. I'm not 100% sure. And look, of course, Marx. There were plenty of things that Marx didn't touch on, but the fact of the matter is that the methodology of Marx has been continued to be used by radicals who happen to be indigenous, who happen to be black, who happen to be Chinese, who happen to be from Latin America, and so on and so forth. So obviously, look at Marxism in general. Where did all of the proletarian revolutions occur? In the global South. So obviously, they didn't find it to be Eurocentric. In the areas where it may have been, they updated it because Marxism is a living, breathing science. It's not a dogma.
Well, the successful revolutions happen.
Yes.
In the global South.
Yeah.
there were very many attempts by Westoids. It's just the Prussian variety of Westoid seemed to work. I don't know. Are Prussians Westoids?
Prussians?
Sort of. Yeah, a little bit, maybe some of them.
I don't know. I guess.
Yeah, good question, huh? Yeah,
kind of between.
Yeah, they're sort of they're Westoid adjacent. They're Eastoids. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know about that one. Yeah, I forget what I was going to say with that. As far as you said that Karl Marx didn't touch upon very many things, I would also like to say that he didn't touch upon kids, which is a marked distinction from the Epstein class that we have running society today. Another point in his favor. Okay, so let's see here. So this next one here. Cops, ICE, and prisons only exist to protect state interests, so being anti those necessitate the position of being anti-state. We're cooking, Cappy. Here's the next one.
There are elements and institutions that states have to have in order to function, at least in the modern world. Things like police and jails and ICE, immigration services. All of these things you necessarily have to have if you have a state for any amount of time. So if you're anti-cop, if you're anti-prison, if you're anti-ICE, then you're anti-state.
But the problem is police officers exist in China, they exist in the USSR, and they exist in the DPRK.
Yes. Because they have a So here's the thing, what she's missing. There is a social character and a class character to jails and police and stuff like that. They're very much different in a revolutionary society than they are in a capitalist society.
Right, and I do agree that in the American capitalistic context that these institutions and the organs or arms of the state do serve to protect the bourgeoisie, class interests, and private property and all that. I think that's fair.
Of course.
Yeah, I think it's a fair criticism, yeah. And yes, being anti those things domestically in the U.S., this is sort of like an obvious position for an Americanoid, Westoid, someone safe in the imperial court to make, right? And not realizing that other societies are fundamentally different, and yet they do have people watching the border. They do have people patrolling the streets to make sure rapists aren't around.
Yes.
Or whatever.
Well, that's the thing, is that prisons and police in a socialist society are to actually protect the people. The interests of the people are at their heart. They're not protecting private property. They're not protecting a bourgeoisie. They're essentially, facilitating a society and protecting the revolution and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and I recall seeing that the police officers, the beat cops, the street cops in the USSR were particularly beloved People like really enjoyed them.
Yes, and some Pat Sloan referred to them as the militia. Not right. There is a distinction. But also same with the prisons. The prisons were for reforming and socializing people to try and turn them into active members of society so that they wouldn't commit crimes, so that they could build a life. And that's why the Soviet Union went through leaps and bounds to make sure that prisons were fundamentally different than capitalist ones. You had prisoner self-governance. You had education programs where you could get trained in a certain trade and get a diploma, and then they'd hook you up with job opportunities when you were going to get out and stuff like that. It was far different than the way capitalist prisons work.
And it's not just capitalist prisons, it's the radical Christian core of America. This was a Christian nation, and the idea of rehabilitation up until the mid-20th century was one of spiritual rehabilitation. There was prisons like in the American South that would literally put you in a hole in the ground until they thought you were saved. Until you beg Jesus for forgiveness and stuff. They're literally talking about spiritual rehabilitation.
Yes. Yeah, and the thing is, too, another part where it departs is the Soviet Union did not want you to be trapped in a cycle of committing crime, going to prison, committing crime, going to prison, right? The U.S. doesn't care if you're in the prisons here create that cycle themselves.
And in as much as they do have rehabilitation programs in America, it's like holding up a candle to the sun. The systemic things that are going to keep you from raising those meritocratic chains from, emancipating you or whatever, they do whatever they can to keep you down, including like when you get out of prison and on parole, people in public housing can't have people on parole there, so they split the family up. There are so many things that negate the sort of rehabilitative programs that American institutions have because the sickness is systemic.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, and then also another point on this thing that I would like to say is not every country has an ICE. Not every country has a paramilitary border thing that operates in and throughout the country. You know what I mean? They don't have that. Very many countries have a border patrol, but I think some of the and in fact, ICE is a new thing itself. And there aren't many countries that have analogs to what ICE is effectively, which is like militarized immigration police.
Yes, essentially the Gestapo.
Okay, so let's see here. They say anarchism isn't lawlessness, and I quote in parenthetically, isn't it definitionally, though? Like it is. You reject anything that would constitute what you describe as a law, and in as much as you don't, it's just because you're calling your organ of governmental power a thing by another name. Oh, these aren't Supreme Courts. These are the People's Court. This isn't this, it's that.
I think the difference is that anarchists, right, instead of having a state to deal with stuff like that, they think that the neighborhood will do it. Oh, some guy commits some heinous act against a woman in this neighborhood. Well, the people in that neighborhood will drive him out. And it's like, that's good. You're just going to drive him into another neighborhood. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they are fundamentally unable to answer problems like rapists or pedophiles. I thought prison abolitionists had bad arguments in that regard, but it's like anarchists take the cake. They're like, we'll just kick them out. So you're just going to sweep pedophiles into another, what are you, the Catholic Church?
Yeah.
You're going to do a March of the Lemmings? Like, what do you mean? But we won't get into the rapist abolitionist thing here. That's a kind of a side conversation we're having. What is this? So let me get into this. Anarchism isn't lawlessness, isn't it definitionally? And private prisons only exist to protect the monopoly of violence against anti-state actors, who I think that they are primarily talking about anarchists, along with ICE and the police. So this is going back into... okay, and then this comment here on this post to which Green Ancen is replying... This is black and white thinking. Abolition of current system does not mean anarchy and lawlessness. Obviously, this is all key architecture to a society, but it doesn't have to be fascism or anarchy. Binaries like that Who knows what the rest of this comment is? Let's listen.
Ignore that I changed my clothes. I am eating pasta, and it was just too much white, and I felt unsafe. But anyways, when it comes to the state, these are just necessary infrastructure that has to exist in order for it to protect its monopoly on violence. No one's saying the only two alternatives are fascism or anarchy. It's not what we're talking. And second off, anarchy is not even equatable to lawlessness. That is anti-anarchist propaganda that you've been spoon-fed your entire life. The necessity of prisons exists under a state because a state necessarily has to be able to prevent its anti-state actors from acting. That's the purpose of prisons. It's not some moral punishment for like evil wrongdoers, right? No. It's just anybody who rebels against the fucking state, in any meaningful way. And this isn't even just the anarchist conception of what prisons are. I fully recommend that you just look it up. Look on fucking Wikipedia. Look on literally everywhere. It's just a facility with the abject purpose of preventing anti-state actors from operating within society. Immigration services also necessarily has to exist. Otherwise, you can't have full control over the citizens of your particular area if they're just allowed to come and go whenever they please. Same thing with the cops, obviously. Enforcement of the rules and laws within society. This is just necessary infrastructure that has to exist in order for the state to control its monopoly on violence.
Okay, Cappy, what do you think about this?
Well, I mean, I think that I think that it's both. Of course, prisons they want to arrest and suppress anti-state actors, but also they do put people who commit murders and rapes in jail, right? So it is both.
Right, and not only that, it's people who mess the money up. It's not just anti-state actors. This is sort of reductive. So if you were going to say that anybody who messes up someone's money is messing up capitalism and ergo is an anti-state actor, that's one thing. But they're not even really making that distinction. They're just sort of saying, so is prison just filled with activists? I don't understand the argument that they're making.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And again, it's missing all of the nuance that these things are functionally different in a dictatorship of the proletariat, which is important. We're talking about two separate things. If we're talking about prisons and cops in a dictatorship of the proletariat or a dictatorship of the bourgeoisie, they're two different things.
Yeah, it's weird how these anarchoids want to cancel everybody online unless they're like a pedophile or a rapist, at which point they'll do nothing.
Yeah.
Well, or they're also inferring that what they will do is have an ad hoc kangaroo court that will arbitrarily do like a military tribunal where someone is instantly put down upon being accused of something. I don't even know under what mandate would there be for a judge or a jury. And I've seen convoluted things like ad hoc juries that get formatted by people's councils, and I guess they have stuff.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. These arguments are extremely disingenuous in my opinion. I just I don't know. It's really reaching. You know what I mean?
Let's see here. So let's listen to another one of these that you have here.
Using the state as a tool for liberation really doesn't make any sense when you think about it. To begin really simply, saying that the state is a tool of class oppression isn't necessarily wrong. We can rock with that. We can rock with that definition. It's fine. For this video, we'll just assume Marxist-Leninism, Marxism, dialectical materialism. We'll assume all of it. I have no problem with that. The state, throughout all its known history, has been used by the owning class to oppress that of the working class, the minority class over the majority class. And under Marxist-Leninist theory, the theory is that we take over the state and use it as the majority of the proletariat to oppress that of the minority bourgeoisie. But I think it's silly to think that we can just swap those two classes interchangeably, as if all classes are born equal. You know what I mean? The proletariat class has fundamental differences to that of the bourgeois, right? We could just talk about in terms of population, the majority versus the minority, that of the working power, the labor that one class is able to put in that the other isn't, the amount that they foundationally operate in. So when the owning class is designing a state, they're designing this perfect tool to oppress that of the working class, they're going to specify it to their needs, right? To put ourselves in the shoes of the bourgeois for a moment, we wouldn't create a tool that could be used by any class to oppress any other, because then that could theoretically oppress our class, the bourgeois in this instance. No, we're going to specify it to our needs to oppress specifically that of the proletariat, right? And that's what we see, right? Like within states, all this power is centralized to a few people. Like in every instance of even Marxist-Leninist projects, but also every other instance of a state, we've always seen that the power is centralized to a few people, to a few individuals, because it's designed for the bourgeois to oppress the proletariat, not for a class to oppress another class.
Okay, I'm going to cut this off early just so you can respond. Cappy, what do you think about that?
They have a fundamental misunderstanding of what makes something bourgeois, like what class is. Class is your relationship to the means of production. Of course, Marxist states are extremely centralized. They're also more democratic, and they involve the broad masses in the political system far more than capitalist democracies. However, it is centralized, but the people at the top of that centralization, right, the leaders of the country, the central committee of the party, whatever, the president of the country, the chairman, whatever it may be, they're not bourgeois. They don't own the means of production because the means of production is collectively owned by the state through unions, through factory committees, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I just saw there was recently like a national congress of people who weren't party members in China. So they have all like branches of government that are enfranchising people who aren't explicitly party members to participate and have like referendums for like national policy.
Yeah, well, that's both China and the DPRK have what we could call a multi-party consultative democracy. That's a type of setup where the only legal ruling party is the Communist Party, but other parties can get seats in the government and consult with the ruling party in order to come to decisions.
So they are making the Death Star argument. So basically what they're saying is this is a false satellite created to shoot a big laser and oppress planets. So therefore it doesn't matter who's at the helm at it. And it seems to be a fundamental mischaracterization of what what a state led by the workers and the dictatorship of the proletariat is versus a representative democracy helmed by liberal capitalists.
Yeah, absolutely. I would recommend that that Green Ancen here reads Soviet Democracy by Pat Sloan. It's a simple book. It's not very long, and it is so insightful. And when you go through that book and you realize how the Soviet Union functioned, you realize that there has never been a more democratic society in the world.
I like it. It's good stuff. Maybe I should. Maybe I'll break my no reading policy and I'll give that a perusal.
It's like 300 pages, but it goes by so quick because it's written.
I take it back.
No, hold on.
Okay,
it's big letters, and written in a very. It's perfect for working class people. It's not dry. It's not boring. It's very simple to understand. Amazing book.
Okay, and then let's start to wrap this up here. Let's go ahead and look at this one. Revolution is inherently anarchist, and authoritarians are traitors to it.
Revolution is inherently anarchist, and authoritarians are traitors to it. Anarchism is either the rejection of superimposed governance, or it's the rejection of unjustified hierarchy or authority. Now, what necessarily has to happen during a revolution is the sublimation of the state, of the superimposed governance, of the unjustified hierarchy or authority. Now, what revolution does is it seeks to topple the current state or authority or hierarchy of the current governance. Anarchist takes this logic a step further and dismantles the state body entirely. Now, what authoritarians do is they substitute the head of the current state for another. They do not dismantle any of the power structures in which exist under the current state, or at the very least not the majority. Authoritarians first sublimate the state and then directly work with it. They work against what the revolution was necessarily fighting for in the first place. Anarchists, on the other hand, just continue the same path forward of destroying the state in its entirety.
This is so exhausting to listen to.
It's bullshit. It's bullshit, too. It's complete and utter bullshit. Like, all of the places that socialist revolution smashed the former state and built an entirely new one.
At which point, anarchists persisting and breaking just become like wreckers.
Yeah, and
there does in fact exist governments that serve the majority of the people's interests.
Absolutely,
I think that, and they just absolutely, it's just like vehemently deny that. Do you think these are people with just like a insecure attachment disorder? How would you diagnose these people? What is psychologically going on with them? Did their father not hug them? Were they diddled as kids? What's going on with these people?
See, I don't like psychopolitics. I don't like to psychologize because I'm not a psychologist, and I just think that it is a lack of understanding of how things actually work in the real world. So, for instance, it's been clear from the last two videos that they don't understand the historical necessity and development of the state. They just want to be rid of the state. You cannot just arbitrarily abolish the state. There's a reason that the state came into being, and if we wish to get rid of it, we have to get rid of the reasons why the state came into being in the first place, right? You can't just arbitrarily abolish it. It plays a historical role. But yeah, no, this is goofy.
It seems like they have PTSD, right? They were so harmed by capitalistic society, they can't look past it. So like they had a parent that abused them, so therefore they're anti-parent. They can't see the utility of a thing past their own grievances and wounds.
Yeah, well, it is very, anarchism to me is very infantile. I mean, in the video before, they said that they changed their clothes because they were eating pasta. So are they telling me that they subjugated themselves to the authority of the red sauce on the pasta? That's not very anarchist.
It could be, yeah. I don't even know how I can't even imagine how this anarchist society would run. There'd be pedophiles running around, and they are against laws protecting people from pedophiles. They were against laws that would protect people from rape. They were against... I don't even know how this works. So, Cappy, like, let's say you're an anarchist and ostensibly some sort of abolitionist of police or whatever, because, hey, that's authoritarian power, right? So what happens who do you call when say, hey, my next door neighbor just raped me?
Well, that's the thing.
What do you even do?
It's you allow the people to handle it themselves, the neighborhood. This is
lynch mobs.
This essentially it is mob rule. This is something.
Isn't that authoritarian?
Yeah, well, that's exactly when she says that revolution is inherently anti-authoritarian. This is crazy, and this is something that you could read. It's like a single page by Engels called On Authority, where he points out that revolution is the most authoritarian thing there is. We're talking about a thing where a portion of the population rises up against the other portion of the population with fucking guns and cannons to overthrow them and then subjugate them. It's the most authoritarian thing there is.
I agree, and that is what we're advocating for right here on this podcast on March 13th, 2026, right here where you live. That's what we want you to do.
Get the old cannon out.
Yeah. So these anarchists, do they imagine the revolution was sort of this decentralized mass collective unconscious happening where people just sort of received a message in their dreams, just jump up and revolt with no centralized messaging or authority or communications or training or anything else like that? It was just people waving torches and pitchforks and collectively in a sort of like a slime mold in a distributed intelligence.
Yeah,
is that how an anarchist revolution works?
More of a spontaneous and decentralized revolution, and it still is very violent, right? The anarchists, they just reject Engels' definition of authority, or if they don't reject it, then they, like Green did, they call it, unjustified authority. We're just against unjustified authority, right? But then the question boils down to what makes authority justified or unjustified?
Whether Karl Marx said it was cool or not.
But yeah, usually they end up going with their feelings. It's a vibes-based analysis. While what makes it justified is, insert my moralistic take here. You know what I mean?
Cappy, there's 5 of these left. I can't get through 5 more.
No,
that's
I
it.
don't
I'm done.
We're
calling it. We're calling it.
I don't
Look,
want to hear anymore.
We have time. Because Cappy, remember, I have to edit this too, so I have to listen to her again. This is torturous. This is going to be torturous to put together. Okay, so and by the way, we still never figured out what the fuck a Centauri is.
No.
They are a Centauri and anarcho-centrist. I have no idea what any of this is. It's all convoluted. There was also, did we see the thing where they also explicitly rejected intersectionality up to like a year ago?
We didn't even get into that.
And now they're talking about the Gwythe gen. They're just a mess, incoherent. They're making it up as they go along. And the only thing that they know is they don't like they don't like communists and they don't like whatever, and they think communists are capitalists, and also that they don't want to abuse their white privilege or don't feel privileged enough to speak on the Southern Hemisphere, yet they have all kinds of videos shitting on the fucking DPRK.
Yeah, completely contradictory.
It doesn't make any sense what they're saying.
No.
And it's completely like, we all know a person like this, like a semantic debate bro, who think that they got you because of how they have misinternalized something definitionally.
Yeah.
And therefore are creating sort of like a piece of sophistry, just a complete definition-based debate.
But they don't understand the definitions even.
And completely independently from any historical precedents.
Yes.
So not only do they not know what the words mean, they don't know why the historical milieu and context from which the definitions and the reasons those words exist and the reason they were revolutionary. It's completely ancillary to that, and now it's sort of a modern understanding of these words that they're using incorrectly to come to policy and conclusion positions that don't make any sense modernly or even back then.
Yeah. And if you're going to debate Marxists, you should probably read Marx a little. Like when just in the other video when they were saying, I don't get it, they want to liberate people by using a state, it's contradictory, and it's like, holy crap. This is exactly what you would understand if you learned about dialectics. Contradictions do exist. You know what I mean? So, like, it's just like pick up a fucking book, and you might understand it a little better.
Pick up a book that isn't written by an anarchist. Number one.
Yeah.
Okay, Cappy, is there anything else you want to tell these listeners? We definitely want you guys to go to Online Leftists at patreon.com/online leftists. And anywhere that you're hearing this, click the link trees. Mine, Cappy's, the Online Leftist one. Click all those things. Follow us everywhere. We do 2 live streams on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Cappy, is there anything else you want to say to these people?
No, I think I'm good. I'm tired after that. I'm like, that wore me out.
Yeah, don't talk to cops.